When we feel stuck, the very first and most important step to moving forward is facing the truth and acknowledging exactly where we are. This sounds simple, but it can be one of the hardest things to do because it forces us to stop running, stop pretending, and stop numbing ourselves with distractions. Many times, when life feels heavy or stagnant, we naturally avoid confronting our reality because it's uncomfortable. We tell ourselves stories that make us feel better in the moment. It's not that bad, or I'll deal with it later. But the longer we refuse to face the truth, the deeper we sink into the mud of being stuck. Change begins only when we can honestly admit to ourselves, "This is my situation right now, and I don't like it." Acknowledging where you are is not about beating yourself up or drowning in guilt. It's about awareness. It's about shining a light on the corners of your life that you've ignored, neglected, or avoided, and finally seeing them for what they are. Maybe you've been putting off making a difficult decision. Maybe you're stuck in a cycle of procrastination, unhealthy habits, or relationships that no longer serve you. Whatever the case may be, progress can't begin until you are willing to say, "Yes, this is my reality." That's not weakness, it's courage. It takes far more strength to confront the truth than to live in denial. Facing the truth also allows you to reclaim your power. When you avoid acknowledging where you are, you end up blaming outside forces, waiting for circumstances to change, or hoping someone else will rescue you. But when you finally face your situation, you take responsibility for it. Responsibility doesn't mean blame, it means ownership. It means recognizing that while you may not have chosen every struggle or setback in your life, you do have the power to choose your response from this moment forward. That shift from victimhood to ownership is the turning point that begins to unlock momentum. Acknowledging where you are also creates clarity. Think about it like using a GPS. You can't plot a route to your destination until you know your starting point. If you lie about where you are, or if you refuse to admit that you're lost, you'll never get to where you want to be. The same is true in life. You can have the clearest vision of your goals and the strongest desire to change, but without first knowing your current location, you'll spin in circles. Honesty about your starting point gives you a solid foundation to build upon. Most importantly, facing the truth frees you. So many people feel stuck not because they don't have opportunities, but because they're weighed down by the denial of their current reality. Once you rip off that bandage and say, "Here's where I am," a strange thing happens. You feel lighter. The burden of pretending disappears. You stop wasting energy on avoidance, and suddenly that energy is available for action. Admitting the truth may sting for a moment, but it opens the door to growth. The good news is that acknowledging where you are is something you can do today. You don't need special skills, money, or connections. You just need honesty with yourself. Look at your life without judgment, without excuses, and without fear. That honesty may hurt for a moment, but it will also liberate you. The truth is not your enemy. It is the beginning of your comeback. Getting unstuck requires more than simply recognizing where you are. It demands a change in how you think about yourself, your challenges, and your possibilities. Shifting your mindset from stuck to strong is the bridge between awareness and action. When people feel trapped in life, it's often less about the circumstances themselves and more about the story they're telling themselves about those circumstances. If you believe you're powerless, unlucky, or destined to stay the same, then no matter what opportunities come your way, you'll find a reason to remain in the same place. But when you shift your mindset, when you decide to look at setbacks as lessons, failures as feedback, and struggles as temporary, you unlock a strength inside you that can carry you through anything. A stuck mindset is usually built on fear and limitation. Thoughts like "I can't," "it's too late," or "I'll never change" act like chains. They create a prison in your mind long before anything in the outside world holds you back. The problem with these thoughts is that they feel so real. They whisper to you in moments of weakness and convince you to stay where it feels safe, even if safe really means stagnant. The first step towards strength is recognizing that these limiting beliefs are not facts. They are stories you've repeated so often that you've accepted them as truth. When you challenge those beliefs, when you say, "What if I could? What if there's another way?" you begin to weaken the grip of the old mindset. Shifting into a strong mindset is not about ignoring reality or faking positivity. It's about choosing a perspective that empowers you rather than paralyzes you. Life will always bring challenges, but strength is built in how you interpret and respond to them. For example, instead of saying, "I failed, so I'm not good enough," a strong mindset reframes it as, "I failed, which means I just learned one way that doesn't work. Now I'm closer to success." That small shift in interpretation can be the difference between giving up and moving forward. Another key part of shifting your mindset is focusing on growth rather than perfection. People often stay stuck because they feel they must be flawless from the start. They compare themselves to others who are further along and convince themselves they'll never catch up. But strength comes from realizing that progress, not perfection, is the goal. Every small improvement counts, and every step forward builds momentum. A growth mindset celebrates effort as much as results, because it knows that effort compounds into transformation over time. Surroundings also play a role in mindset. If you consistently listen to voices of negativity, whether from others or from your own inner critic, you will feel stuck. To build strength, feed your mind with encouragement, inspiration, and examples of resilience. Read stories of people who overcame incredible odds. Spend time with people who lift you higher instead of dragging you down. Train your mind the way an athlete trains the body, by giving it the right inputs and practicing the right responses. Ultimately, shifting your mindset is a decision. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean you'll never have doubts again. But it does mean you commit to catching yourself when those stuck thoughts arise and deliberately replacing them with stronger ones. Over time, this becomes a habit, and that habit shapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as the author of your future. When your mindset shifts, the world doesn't instantly change, but you do. And when you change, the possibilities around you expand in ways you couldn't see before. When life feels overwhelming, the idea of changing everything at once can be paralyzing. This is why so many people remain stuck. They look at the size of the mountain ahead and convince themselves it's impossible to climb. The secret to getting unstuck is breaking it all down into small, manageable steps. Progress doesn't come from giant leaps made once in a while. It comes from consistent, steady movement in the right direction. When you focus on small steps, you give yourself the gift of momentum, and momentum is what eventually transforms your situation. Often, the problem with being stuck is not that you don't know what to do, but that the path ahead feels so big you don't know where to start. For example, someone who wants to get healthier might think, "I need to lose 50 pounds," and immediately feel discouraged because that number feels too heavy, too far away. But if that same person breaks it down into something simple like, "Today I'll drink more water," or "Tonight I'll take a 15-minute walk," the goal suddenly becomes approachable. The magic of small steps is that they bypass the overwhelm and create achievable wins. Those wins build confidence, and confidence fuels the courage to keep going. Breaking things down also rewires how we experience effort. When a task feels impossible, we procrastinate. We avoid it because our brain associates it with stress and failure. But when a task feels small, doable, and even a little easy, we're far more likely to act. Think about cleaning an entire house. It can feel exhausting even before you start, but telling yourself, "I'll just wash the dishes right now," it makes it manageable. By the time the dishes are done, you may feel motivated to tackle another small chore. Before you know it, the whole house is cleaner, not because you forced yourself to finish everything at once, but because you allowed small actions to build upon each other. The same principle applies to bigger goals in life. If you want to change careers, it doesn't start with quitting your job tomorrow. It might start with researching industries, updating your resume, or reaching out to one new contact this week. If you want to write a book, it doesn't start with writing 300 pages. It begins with one paragraph, one page, or even one sentence a day. By breaking down the massive into the manageable, you create a path forward that doesn't just feel possible, it feels empowering. Small steps also teach you to value consistency over intensity. Many people get stuck because they wait for the perfect burst of motivation or inspiration to push them forward. The truth is, motivation is unreliable, but consistency is powerful. Taking one small step every day compounds into massive results over time. Just as drops of water carve valleys into stone, your small, steady actions carve a new path for your future. Most importantly, small steps remind you that progress, no matter how tiny, is still progress. Being unstuck isn't about instantly arriving at your destination. It's about proving to yourself that you can move. That single action, however small, is proof that you are no longer frozen. Each step becomes a vote of confidence in yourself, a reminder that you are capable of change. When you break it down, you stop staring at the mountain and start climbing it, one step at a time, and with each step, the once impossible journey begins to feel achievable. Fuel is what keeps any journey going. Without it, even the best intentions and clearest plans fizzle out. When it comes to getting unstuck, habits are the fuel that carry you forward when motivation fades. Motivation is wonderful. It sparks excitement. It lights the fire. But it is also temporary. It comes and goes depending on moods, circumstances, and energy levels. Habits, on the other hand, are steady. They don't rely on how you feel in the moment. They run on autopilot once they're built. That's why learning to harness the power of habits is one of the most effective ways to transform your life and keep yourself moving forward. Habits shape your days, and your days shape your life. If you want to change your life, you don't need to overhaul everything at once. You just need to install small, powerful routines that align with the person you want to become. Think about it. Brushing your teeth is a habit. You don't have to wrestle with yourself every morning to decide whether or not to do it. It's automatic. What if the actions that bring you closer to your goals felt just as automatic? That's what habits can do for you. The process begins with choosing habits that fuel your energy and focus. For some people, this might mean starting the day with exercise, journaling, or meditation. For others, it could mean setting aside 20 minutes in the evening to read, learn, or work on a personal project. The key is consistency, not intensity. A habit doesn't need to be massive to be effective. In fact, smaller is usually better. The easier it is to do, the more likely you'll stick with it long enough for it to become automatic. A 5-minute workout every day is far more powerful in the long run than an intense workout you only manage to do once a month. Habits also create structure, and structure creates freedom. When you're stuck, life can feel chaotic, as though you're drifting without control. But when you establish habits, you anchor yourself. You know what to expect of yourself, and that reduces decision fatigue, the mental exhaustion that comes from having to make too many choices. If your habit is to write for 15 minutes every morning, You don't waste energy debating whether or not to write. You just do it. That consistency not only saves energy but builds momentum, and momentum is often the difference between staying stuck and breaking free. Another powerful aspect of habits is how they compound over time. On any given day, the effects of your habits might seem small, almost invisible. Drinking a glass of water instead of soda won't change your life today. Writing one page won't give you a book tomorrow. But over weeks, months, and years, these small actions accumulate into massive transformation. Habits are like investments. Each small deposit doesn't look like much on its own, but the compound interest over time creates results that feel almost magical. When you harness the power of habits, you're building a system that supports your growth automatically. You no longer have to rely solely on willpower, which is limited and unreliable. Instead, you create a rhythm that carries you forward even on the days you don't feel like it. And the best part is, once a habit is established, it requires less effort to maintain than it did to start. That's when you know you've built fuel that can carry you for the long haul. No one gets unstuck alone. While personal responsibility is crucial, the environment you place yourself in and the people you surround yourself with often determine whether you stay stagnant or rise higher. Humans are social creatures by design. Our energy, beliefs, and behaviors are heavily influenced by the people closest to us. If you constantly spend time around negativity, doubt, or complacency, it will be incredibly difficult to break free from feeling stuck. On the other hand, when you build a circle of people who uplift, inspire, and challenge you to grow, you create an environment that fuels progress instead of holding it back. The truth is, energy is contagious. When you're around people who complain constantly, who focus only on problems instead of solutions, or who discourage your dreams, that energy rubs off on you. It plants seeds of doubt and fear. Over time, you may even lower your own expectations to match theirs. This is why building your circle is so important. It isn't about cutting people out of your life harshly, but it is about being intentional with where you invest your energy. You need people who light a fire in you, not those who extinguish it. An uplifting circle doesn't just cheer for you when things go well. It also holds you accountable when you falter. Accountability is a gift. When you tell someone your goals and they check in on you, you're more likely to follow through. We all have moments when we lose motivation, but if you have people in your life who remind you of your potential and encourage you to take that next step, it becomes harder to give up. This accountability is not about pressure, it's about support. It's about having others believe in you even when your own belief wavers. Surrounding yourself with uplifting people also broadens your perspective. When you're stuck, your mind can feel like it's on a loop, replaying the same doubts and fears. Being around people who think differently, who have overcome struggles of their own, or who approach challenges with creativity, can help you see new possibilities. Sometimes one conversation with the right person can spark a shift in your thinking that changes everything. Building your circle also means being selective about the input you allow into your life beyond just personal relationships. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the mentors you follow online, all of these voices form part of your circle too. If your daily input is full of negativity, gossip, or fear, it will weigh you down. But if your input is filled with encouragement, wisdom, and growth-oriented content, it will lift you up. In today's world, you have the power to curate your influences more than ever before. Choose wisely. It's equally important to remember that being part of an uplifting circle is a two-way street. You can't just take encouragement, you must also give it. When you support others, celebrate their wins, and help them through struggles, you not only strengthen your relationships, but also reinforce your own growth. Being a source of light for others deepens your own sense of purpose and keeps you aligned with your values. At the end of the day, the people around you act like mirrors, reflecting back what's possible for your own life. If you want to get unstuck, surround yourself with people who remind you of your strength, who challenge you to dream bigger, and who believe in your ability to rise. The right circle doesn't just support your journey. They make the journey itself richer, more meaningful, and far more achievable. Movement is the ultimate antidote to being stuck. No matter how much you think, plan, or prepare, nothing changes until you take action. The trap that keeps so many people stuck is the belief that they have to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions before moving forward. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion. If you wait for it, you'll wait forever. Progress, not perfection, is what gets you out of the rut. Even imperfect action is infinitely more powerful than staying still, because action creates momentum, and momentum opens doors you couldn't see before. When you move forward, even with small steps, you send yourself a powerful message. I am capable of change. That belief is what fuels resilience and growth. Too often, people sabotage themselves by obsessing over mistakes or worrying that they don't have everything figured out. But growth is never a straight line. You'll stumble, you'll make wrong turns, and you'll face setbacks. None of that means you're failing. It means you're moving. Standing still feels safe, but it keeps you locked in the same place. Moving forward, even imperfectly, keeps you learning, adjusting, and evolving. Think about how a child learns to walk. They don't wait until they have the perfect balance or perfect stride before taking that first step. They wobble, fall, get back up, and try again. Each attempt is messy, but each one brings them closer to walking confidently. Adults, however, often forget this. We expect ourselves to be flawless from the beginning, and when we're not, we give up. But life rewards persistence, not perfection. The willingness to try, fail, and try again is what separates those who stay stuck from those who move forward. Another benefit of choosing progress over perfection is the way it reduces fear. Fear grows in stillness. The longer you delay action, the bigger your doubts and anxieties become. But once you start moving, fear begins to shrink. You realize that the thing you were so afraid of wasn't as terrifying as you imagined. Every step you take, no matter how small, builds courage for the next one. Action silences fear in a way that thinking never can. It's also important to recognize that progress builds upon itself. One action leads to another, one opportunity leads to the next, and momentum gathers speed like a snowball rolling downhill. Maybe you start with a 5-minute habit, which leads to a small success, which builds confidence, which inspires you to try something bigger. Over time, these seemingly small choices add up to major breakthroughs. You can't always see the big picture from the starting line, but as long as you keep moving, the path reveals itself step by step. Moving forward doesn't mean ignoring mistakes, it means learning from them. Every misstep carries valuable lessons that shape your growth. If you wait for the perfect plan, you miss those lessons. If you demand perfection, you rob yourself of the resilience that only comes from trial and error. The beauty of progress is that it honors your humanity. It allows you to be imperfect, to learn, to grow, and to rise stronger with every attempt. In the end, progress over perfection is a choice. It's the choice to say, I may not know it all, I may not get it right the first time, but I will not stay stuck. That decision alone creates momentum, and momentum is what transforms lives. Keep moving, keep learning, keep growing, because forward, no matter how messy, is always better than standing still.